Most of you guys don't even know who Jared is. In the early 2000s, this guy was the spokesman and face of the company Subway. It was that Taylor had security cameras in the offices of the foundation. He accidentally caught their underage intern having sex with her boyfriend in the office. Instead of reprimanding the young woman, Jared wanted to see the tape in full, and he forced Taylor to place more cameras throughout the building. He eventually started using the foundation to get closer to kids and even into their bedrooms, and started placing hidden cameras inside children's bedrooms across the city.
Entire World Part 2. Raquel opened up the oven and saw her 19-month-old baby with burns all over her body. The child wasn't moving or breathing at all. They called the ambulance, but it was already too late. They lost their child. There were no charges against the 3-year-old, but the parents got child endangerment and they actually got their kid taken away by foster care. The worst part about this is their grandmother actually lived in the same apartment building and could have been avoided if she just would have babysat them.
Why didn't she?
Disturbing facts that will ruin your day. There are between 25 and 50 active serial killers in the United States at any given time, according to the FBI. If you live a full life, you're going to have shed over 100 pounds of your skin. Cruise ships are legally required to have morgues for the passengers that inevitably will die on each trip. A Nightmare on Elm Street was inspired by a true story. A boy was having disturbing nightmares and refused to sleep for multiple days. The same night that he succumbed to exhaustion, he died in his sleep, but not before screaming for help in the middle of the night because of his nightmares. If you try to grab the brain in its natural state, it will fall apart. When you see scientists pick up a brain, it's because they've used chemicals to harden it. There are still 40 million people worldwide that are slaves. 3 in 4 of those are women, and 1 in 4 are children. Follow for more.
You gotta solve that, man. That's unacceptable.
This is why you should always lock your doors. A junior in high school was home alone working on a paper while his parents were out to dinner. All night he sits with his back to his door, sitting at his desk with his noise-canceling headphones on. Around 11 o'clock, he takes his headphones off at the same time his parents are returning to the house, and he hears his mom from downstairs yell, "Hey Adrian, what happened?" Confused, he runs downstairs and sees right away what she's looking at, muddy footprints all over the rug. He tells her, "I didn't leave my desk." And then they realize someone must have broken in. They look at the footprints and there's none leaving the house. They're worried someone's still in the house, so they run into the garage, terrified, call the police. Police arrive and they don't find anyone in the house, but they do make a chilling discovery upstairs. The police bring them to the kid's bedroom door, which had been left open all night, and they point to the message written on it in Sharpie. This is the actual transcript of what was written on his door, which means for nearly 2 hours, someone stood in this kid's doorway watching him.
That's why I don't wear those noise cancellation headphones.
Here's why you should stop rubbing your eyes.
That was no joke. You seriously need to stop rubbing your eyes as much, and here's why. Trust me, you might want to favorite this video because you might need this as a reminder in the future. Let's be honest, we're all guilty of this at some point. But I bet you didn't know that continually rubbing your eyes can actually cause really bad damage to your cornea. In fact, it can thin out your cornea, causing it to bulge. I mean, let's go back to the MRI footage. This is someone rubbing their eye, visibly being able to see the pressure it puts on your eye, and the way that the eye can actually change shape, increasing the pressure on your eye by 20 times. And it gets worse if you rub your eyes with your knuckles or the back of your hand. So although the occasional rub probably won't do you any harm, consistently doing it and consistently doing it hard could lead to potential vision loss. So send this to literally anyone you know, because for their eyes' sake, they need to see this. Elon!
Noted, man. I be, rubbing my eyes sometimes all the time. I'm a victim too, especially using my knuckles, so I didn't know it could make
The two brothers who took their parents' lives 35 years ago may now have an opportunity to be released this year. In 1989, Eric and Lyle Menendez took their parents' lives, Jose and Kitty Menendez, inside their home in Beverly Hills. The brothers were convicted of first-degree murder and were given life sentences without the possibility of parole. But the thing that has a lot of people questioning whether this was fair or not is the amount of evidence they have against their father, showing that he essayed them growing up. Their father, who was an executive in the entertainment industry, had a lot of power, and Eric and Lyle were terrified of him. They were essayed by their father from a very young age until they were teenagers, and they even told their mother, but nothing was ever done. After taking their parents' lives out of fear, new evidence was revealed that their father also drugged and Ard, a 13-year-old boy named Roy Rosello, who was part of a popular Puerto Rican singing group called Menudo at the time. What I find so surprising about this is the amount of support Eric and Lyle have received from family members on both sides who truly believe them and are calling for justice. But on the other hand, there seems to be a conflict of interest. An attorney named Kathy Cady was just appointed to be the new director of the Bureau of Victim Services, which makes no sense because she's also the lawyer for the only family member of the Menendez brothers who strongly believes that Eric and Lyle should stay in prison for the rest of their lives. Many people believe that the brothers were not given a fair chance during their trial and deserve to be resentenced, which could now potentially happen at a hearing on March 20th. If you guys want to support Eric and Lyle's resentencing, you can share this post with the hashtag Justice for Eric and Lyle or email the DA through the website's form and tell them you support resentencing.
Here's what your birthmark actually says about your past life. If you have no birthmarks, this means you died of natural causes in your past life or you're a new soul. If you have a red birthmark anywhere on your body, this is a sign that you burned to death in your past life. If you have any skin impressions that look like this that's caused by acne or smallpox, that's where you've actually been wounded in your past life. It serves as a reminder from issues in your past life that you've come to the present to heal. If you have a spot anywhere on your eye, this is most likely a spear wound from your past life where someone most likely killed you while you were sleeping. If you have a birthmark on your head somewhere, and especially if you can't grow hair through it, this means you were probably killed by scalping, which is when someone cuts off all the hair and skin around your head before killing you. And if you have a birthmark like this with a dark center and a light ring around it, it's a sign that you were hit with a poison arrow in your past life.
Here are the creepiest things kids have ever said. And before I tell you these, I feel like I'm obliged to say, I'm so sorry. First up, we've got Monster Under the Bed. One night, a young girl couldn't sleep because apparently there was something under her bed. And when her parents came into the room to say go back to sleep because there's nothing under her bed, she replied with, I know. He's behind you now. Like, I'm sorry. Next up, a 4-year-old girl was found in the bathroom by her mum with all of her Barbies. But she was making them float face down in the bath. When the mum asked what she was doing, she replied with, the man in the wardrobe told me if I didn't do it, it would be my turn to swim face down. Next up, a 3-year-old boy was softly singing in a room while colouring in a picture. His mum actually stopped to listen because she'd never heard the song before. When she asked where he learnt it, he said the lady in my bedroom sang it to me. And finally, a 5-year-old asked his mum when he was going to be 23. His mum said in 18 years' time, and he replied with, well, I hope I don't die again, as that was how old I was the last time I went to heaven. Tell me which story made you go, what the fuck, the most? And share this with a friend to just creep them out because you're a good person. Now everyone with me.
A case that makes me sick. The murder of Kenneth White. These 5 teenagers was throwing rocks from an overpass. Eventually, one rock hit the windshield of White's car and hit his face.
They do that, man.
You should never swim in any of these places. Number 1, the River Ganges in India. Thousands of people swim here every year, but it's one of the most polluted places on the planet. It has over 3,000 times the amount of unsafe chemicals. And to make matters worse, bodies are even dumped in the river. Number 2, Lake Berisa in California. The reason you should never swim here is because there is a massive spillway inside the lake. This is to make sure the water doesn't rise too high. People and animals have been swept into this spillway, making it a very dangerous place. Number 3, Lake Karach in Russia. Its amazing blue color attracts many tourists. But what they don't realize is that it's the most polluted lake on the planet. When the Soviet Union were making nukes, they dumped all their nuclear wastes into this lake. If you ever swam in this lake, you'll only be alive for about 30 minutes. Number 4, the boiling lake in Dominica. Underneath this boiling lake is red magma, and the lake's water is at 100 degrees Celsius. Sophomore?
Okay, man. That goes to show you, bro. Like, on the surface, those leaks, like I said, some of those, man, leaks, they look freaking beautiful, but they're deadly, man. Beauty kills. I can't believe it, especially 2 of those leaks, man. They just look like regular leaks, man. You never know.
Techniques in the entire world that you will wish I never told you about. It's part 4, boys. This is known as white room torture, and once again, it is still used today. It doesn't look like much from a photo, but it's horrific and one of the worst tortures you can experience. Basically, you'll be placed in just a white room, like a prison cell, but it's just plain white. Everything in the room is white. The bed, the walls, the toilet, the shelves, the door, everything. There's no other colours in the room. Now you probably think, well, it's not a big deal, it's just white. Well, you'd be wrong there. By seeing the same colour, especially white, constantly and no change, will drive you insane. To the point where you're hallucinating, smashing into the walls, and possibly even trying to kill yourself. That's why most of these white rooms are actually padded, so people can't just run havoc in the walls. But yeah, for the first day or two, you'd be, it's not that bad. But people will be held in here for months upon months upon months. And after around only day 3, you'll start to go insane. Like and follow for more.
Creepy facts.
How long does the guy survive in the white room?
Signs. Gemini to face.
Two-Face, that's what they're talking about. That's what I'm getting off those
Taurus,
pictures.
stalkers.
Stalker vibes from Taurus.
Aquarius, very manipulating.
Is that true for Aquariuses?
Leo, good liars.
Leos are good liars. Drop her sign down below.
Cancer, obsessive in relationships.
Each sign got their own fault.
Libra knows how to ruin your day in every way.
Dang.
This has to be one of the creepiest mugshots I've ever seen, and the story behind it is pretty disturbing. This is the man in the mugshot, Christopher Queen. At the time of his arrest, he was 48 years old and living in Pennsylvania. So on election day in 2018, Christopher entered a polling center in Pennsylvania planning on casting a vote. But when he arrived to vote, he was told that he couldn't because he wasn't registered. Poll workers who were working that day even stated that they heard Christopher mention that he was getting paid $100 to come vote, which obviously was not true. But when Christopher arrived, like I said before, he wasn't registered to vote in Washington County, the county he was in. When the workers told him that he couldn't vote, they noticed that Christopher began to shake uncontrollably and became filled with some sort of a rage. He then made the verbal threat that he was going to come back and shoot up the place, and after that, he was quickly put into handcuffs. I don't know the full story behind why he chose to exhibit this expression in his mugshot, but they caught him before he could enact any sort of violence, and yeah, he was arrested. It's worth noting as well that in other news reports that surfaced after this threat was made, Christopher is seen smiling in the same type of manner. Luckily though, authorities were able to arrest Christopher and put him in custody that day before he could cause any violence.
So it looks like Art the Clown is going to be starring in a brand new horror movie, and we don't have to wait until Terrifier 4. As we know, the actor who plays Art the Clown is David Howard Thornton, who of course plays Art the Clown, and who also played the Grinch in The Mean Ones, which I feel like is a little bit overhated. Yes, it's a low-budget horror movie having to do with the Grinch story, but there are a ton of aspects that David Howard Thornton uses while playing the Grinch in The Mean Ones that really makes it feel like it's Art the Clown. And I feel like it's almost the same thing we're going to be getting in this Mickey Mouse horror movie having to do with Steamboat Willie, a Steamboat Willie horror movie, pretty much Mickey Mouse, more or less. Now yes, technically it's one of those lower budget horror movies, kind of like the Grinch the Mean Ones. And if you've seen the trailer, you might know that it does not look great. I'm going to reiterate one more time, neither did Terrifier when it first came out. I'm pretty sure they're not going to be using CGI either. It looks like they're going to be doing a full costume like they do in Terrifier. Obviously I cannot show you the trailer because it's extremely graphic, and I don't really know if it's something that you want to watch in general. But all in all, I think it's amazing that David Howard Thornton is not only just playing Art the Clown, but playing these other characters. And I'm hoping he's going to be giving it a little bit of Art the Clown inspo. As I said, when he played the Grinch in The Mean Ones, there were aspects of Art the Clown, that funny, that humor, that we only see from Art the Clown. I'm just glad we don't have to wait till Terrifier 4.
Do you ever see a picture that just makes your stomach drop? This is a still from an alert that a woman named Alexis Randall got on her phone. It's from a security camera that was set up in her living room, but she's looking at this and she's thinking the same thing you were. She's like, what's wrong with the picture here? Why did the motion detector go off? But then look a bit closer, specifically at the bathroom door. This man was staring at the camera from the doorway. She spots this picture and she immediately panics and calls the police, but by the time they get there, this guy is gone. What really freaked her out even more is that when police got there, they found evidence that the bathroom window had been tampered with. Further security footage would show that the man had crawled through the bathroom window the night before and was hiding in the hallway bathroom all through the night, even while she was in the house. And if you guys are loving Creep Time, make sure to go follow on Insta.
One of my worst fears, man. Somebody just in your house and you have no idea. I didn't even see that until he zoomed in.
Here are the most terrifying mythical beasts from around the world. First up, the Wendigo. The Wendigo is described as a gigantic creature which is a near-perfect hunter and can control the weather through the use of dark magic. Native Canadian and American folklore state that the Wendigo is born when a human has to resort to cannibalism to survive, although it has also been described as a spirit which possesses humans who are excessively greedy or gluttonous. Before we continue, please show your support by pressing share copy link to receive a brofist in the comments section. Next up, Black Annis. Black Annis is a hag-like creature in English folklore with iron claws and an appetite for human children. Legend has it that Black Annis would hide in trees waiting for her victims, and when she caught them, she would wear their skins around her waist. But if you were careful, you could hear her teeth grinding and run away. Let me know what countries I should do next.
The Wendigos, man. I learned some new lore on that.
Lost inventions that could have changed the world, part 4. In the late 1990s, inventor Jan Slow created the Slow digital coding system. He claimed it could compress an entire multi-gigabyte movie down to a file size of 8 kilobytes. This would have revolutionized the way we store and share data. Slout demonstrated this to executives from Philips by playing 16 movies simultaneously from a single 64 kilobyte chip. And the Philips execs told Slout that he was about to be, quote, the richest man on earth. However, 2 days before the source code was going to be handed over, Slout mysteriously died in his garden of a heart attack on September 11th, 1999, and his decoding software was never recovered.
And what do you guys think about that? There's no way that's a coincidence, man. It compacted all those files into like just 8 gigabytes. And there was proof he showed him, man. He was about to be the richest man on earth. Somebody didn't want that product to go through. I don't know who behind that one. That's
YouTubers who've done horrible things. Jay Station was a Canadian YouTuber who would often do pranks and 3M videos. One day, he claimed that his girlfriend Alexia was suddenly killed in a car accident. However, he used her death as a way to get views, even communicating to her through an Ouija board. Alexia was revealed to be alive, and once the truth came out, she later revealed how mentally abusive he was. This would later lead to his channel being demonetized.
Times when actors couldn't act. In The Boys, Homelander is one of the most menacing and intimidating villains we've ever seen. In this scene, he knocks over a door just by knocking. But when Anthony Starr realizes he accidentally broke the set, he completely breaks character.
Shit, are you supposed to do that?
Sorry, guys.
You broke the door, man.
I'm sorry. And for this flying scene, they actually filmed it practically, but Anthony Starr could not stay in character.
My life. This. Off. Holy. Okay. Please, let's go.
In Spider-Man Far From Home, there's a scene where Ned shares a big secret with Peter, but Tom Holland couldn't keep a straight face while filming.
I'm a virgin.
I'm so sorry.
In Wednesday, Jenna Ortega's character is dark and unapologetic, but after she accidentally hits Emma Myers with a flashlight, she snaps out of character.
Oh, sorry. Did I hit you in the face right now? Hold on. Are you okay?
And lastly, when filming Rush Hour, Jackie Chan barely knew any English, which led to him messing up his lines in the funniest ways.
Cheese!
Cheese?
Meanwhile, his co-star Chris Tucker didn't know any Chinese, which led to this.
See? How difficult is that? My English, you even cannot say 3 words!
You try, bro. Rush Hour. Classic, man.
Guess who's back again to traumatize y'all with more creepy stuff? Me! So this is a gigantic, breathing animatronic that is in Shanghai, China, and it's of Confucius, the Chinese teacher. It is absolutely massive. Look how big it is in comparison to that dude right there. And it is in a pool of water that it's only like a foot deep, but it's still terrifying. Look at this. Like, its beard is in the water. That's creepy. Bro is like hyper realistic. Like, that looks like real skin. That is so freaking uncanny. And apparently his chest moves like very, very subtly, so it looks like he's breathing. No. This picture alone heebies my jeebies beyond absolute belief. Imagine that you work in this museum at night and like your job is to go put out the lights in this area of the museum, and you're this guy and you have to put off the lights and turn off the animatronic for the night, and that thing is in the dark just staring at you. Nope. Love his eyebrows though. Like, for real, his eyebrows look amazing. He's not at the museum anymore. In the video that I watched about him, he actually is put in a warehouse somewhere. So this gigantic monstrosity is just chilling in a dark warehouse somewhere right now on this planet. How do you feel about this one? Does this freak you out? Would you be able to look at it or get anywhere close to it? Would you get in that water? Me? No.
Here are 3 real ways you can survive encountering a Gashadakuru. According to Japanese mythology, the Gashadakuru is a massive skeletal being known for its unending desire to consume human blood. The first rule you'll need to follow if you suspect there's a Gashadakuru in your area is to always keep your ears open for anything that sounds unfamiliar. Despite its size, the Gashadakuru is known to be able to stalk its prey almost silently, but if you listen carefully, there's a chance you'll hear its bones chattering in the wind, giving you time to flee. Secondly, it's recommended you don't travel alone if you live in a rural area, as the Gashadakuru prefers to hunt people who are by themselves to avoid drawing attention to itself. Finally, it's recommended that you avoid old battlefields or areas where there is an abundance of improperly buried individuals, as these are the conditions necessary to spawn a Gashadakuru. Tag a friend if you're watching this alone, and follow for more.
Thanks for
The
letting us know.
Craziest Human Experiments, Part 6. The Gruesome Beheading Experiments. Throughout the 19th and 20th century, French doctors investigated whether freshly executed victims stayed alive moments after their death. One notable case was that of Charlotte Corday, who was publicly executed in 1793. According to reports at the time, her severed head was lifted up by the executioner and slapped across the face. And to the shock of the crowd, the victim's face apparently blushed and appeared angry. Another famous case in 1905 where a man shouted at a severed head and it apparently responded back. Their main goal was to find out how long a human head remained conscious after death.
They figured it out? I know.
This is why you never paddleboard out in the ocean.
And there you have it, recent 4,269, I'd ride cross-country on a bike with no seat. Pause. Before I go out into the open ocean, that is a nope of the highest order. Those are South American sea nettles, a species of jellyfish that can have a bell, you know, that umbrella-looking part, more than 3 feet across, to go with tentacles that can range anywhere from 3 to 10 feet long. And I don't think I even really need to tell you, but yeah, touching one of those can be really bad for your health. They use venom to paralyze prey, but it can also cause excruciating pain and a really bad rash if you get stung. And if you think that's bad, I got something even worse. This is what a jellyfish pool party in Peru looks like the devil's bubble bath. And guess what? This kind of thing, it's only gonna get worse. Because whether you want to believe in climate change or not, the more the Earth's thermostat gets turned up, the more the jellyfish start turning up on us. Since unlike most of the effery in the ocean, jellyfish actually do better in warmer waters with less oxygen. Especially since climate change means more CO2 means more algae blooms, and guess what likes to eat algae? And you don't have to be in the water to get rocked by jellyfish. There have been times where jellyfish swarms got so bad they dead for real caused power outages because they managed to clog the pipes in power plants. Now go ahead and add the fact that some jellyfish can spawn 45,000 eggs a day, especially if we're actively murking the things that eat them. Just another reason to save the turtles.
Save the turtles,
The
man.
most insane trade war has officially begun because Canada, Mexico, and China are pissed and have now all announced their own plans on how to retaliate against Trump's tariffs. I mean, even at last night's NHL hockey game, you had Canadians booing the US national anthem. So what the hell is going on? Well, you see, yesterday, Trump's promised 25% tariffs on Canada and Mexico and 10% on China officially kicked in. And what that means is that any goods sent from these countries to the United States, well, they'll now cost companies 25% more, or 10% in China's case. So for example, if a Canadian business sent a car to the US that cost $50,000, today US companies will pay a $12,500 tariff at the border. But then here's the annoying part, they'll pass that cost down to you, the US customer. So the price of your once $50,000 car is now actually $62,500. But this doesn't make sense. Why would Trump purposefully make things more expensive for Americans? Well, two main reasons. The first is more of a longer-term, unguaranteed benefit, but it would be to change consumer habits to buy more American-made products and incentivize more international companies to manufacture in the US. In theory, that means a stronger US economy, more stable jobs, and less dependence on foreign countries. And the second reason for imposing these tariffs would be to use them as a tool to pressure Canada, Mexico, and China into doing what Trump wants. I mean, some of these things that he's publicly mentioned include renegotiating trade deals, stopping illegal immigration and the flow of fentanyl, and then there's also Canada becoming a state of America, but that's a bit more far-fetched. But here's where things get interesting, because instead of just doing what Trump wants, Canada have clapped back with a 25% tariff of their own, and Mexico said they're doing the same, but haven't announced the percentage yet. China reacted in a little bit of a different way by preparing to file a lawsuit with the World Trade Organization. So why is Trump not backing down? Well, just listen to this. In 2023, Canada sent 76% of all of their exports to the United States. That accounts for roughly 19% of their entire GDP. In 2024, Mexico sent 78% of all of their exports to the United States. That makes up 37% of their entire GDP. But for America, their exports to both countries combined only make up roughly 2.7% of their entire GDP. So, simply put, even if they do retaliate, getting into a tariff war with the United States would hit Canada and Mexico much harder. Trump, he knows this, and he's using it. It doesn't make it any less controversial, and it does still mean that people in all three countries will see a price increase. But it seems like, for Trump at least, that
This video proves that skinwalkers are real. In the Navajo Native American culture, skinwalkers are believed to be shape-shifting witches that take the form of animals. And as the legend goes, these creatures are dangerous spirits. Many people in North America have reported seeing these skinwalkers in real life, and there's even movies and TV shows about them. There are hundreds of videos online claiming to have caught a skinwalker on camera. However, this home security camera footage caught something very disturbing. The video at first appears to be pretty normal, just showing a family's backyard pool. But if you look closely to the right of their basketball hoop, it appears that some strange-looking creature is climbing the fence to their backyard. The creature looks to have a humanoid-like torso, head, and arms. And all it does is just climb up the fence and look around the backyard. If we take a closer look, we can see that the creature definitely appears to look like a human being. And just a few seconds later, the creature vanishes. Every time I say gorillas share 98% of our DNA, y'all either call me an idiot, an atheist, or a monkey. Well, I'm gonna prove it. With funny. This is Hauko the gorilla. You see, Hauko had a problem. He's a proud father of four who loves nothing more than to play with his children. Because it's actually scientifically proven that gorillas find the nurturing, child-raising males more attractive and not really the aggressive bully types. Hauko knows ball, but the problem was his baby mama wasn't always too eager to have the 500-pound silverback handle such a tiny baby. So in all of Hauko's infinite gorilla wisdom, he came up with a solution. He kidnapped her. Repeatedly. You really gonna tell me you don't see the 98, bro? You tried to knock over the crate as a diversion. Also, I just want to point out all that movement, yet the baby remains still. That's perfect form. He's done this before. Hauko would do this with all his children, proving my scientific theory correct. This a game to him. I mean, just peep the 500 pounds of primate swerve in that corner. Whoa. And if you still don't believe the hype, Hauko also has a brother, Shabani, and Shabani has been trying to get the attention of his crush for years with no luck. So one day he decided to just go for it. And you're watching it happen. Gorilla or not, we've all been him at some point. Yo, I got a girl and I still be on this. I will say this though, it went a lot better than his first attempt. God bless you, Shabani. And fun fact, Shabani would go viral for boosting ticket sales because women genuinely found the gorilla attractive. No, I'm not kidding. They were calling him Gorilla George Clooney. No comment. And if you're still not convinced, I challenge you to watch this video and think otherwise. Please. The more you know.
Here's some news that will give you hope. This couple just shattered the world record for the longest marriage, celebrating 84 years together and still going strong. A blind 20-year-old cat named Tiki was stranded on a frozen lake in Massachusetts when the ice cracked beneath him. Two men working nearby jumped into a rowboat, broke through the ice with a shovel, and pulled him to safety just in time. A single mom working as a bartender in Houston got a $20,000 Christmas miracle when Post Malone surprised her with the massive tip on Christmas Eve. Veteran homelessness is at its lowest level ever, with just 32,000 veterans without housing, the fewest since tracking began in 2009. The murder hornet has officially been wiped out in the United States after first being spotted in Washington 5 years ago. A missing dog was found in Illinois after being lost for a week, finally spotted thanks to thermal technology on a drone. 1,200 goats have been hired to prevent wildfires in Colorado by eating overgrowth, reducing fire risk with their endless snacking. Where do I sign up? An entire town learned sign language to surprise their deaf neighbor, making communication easier for everyone. A man fishing in the middle of the night in South Africa reeled in something unexpected when his fishing line hooked onto a drowning woman's jeans, pulling her to safety from a deadly riptide.
What's the scariest urban legend from your
Whoa,
state?
that's
Today, Rhode Island. Freddy Fingernails is an urban legend that has been around since the mid-20th century, and some people speculate that it might have inspired Wes Craven's Nightmare on Elm Street. This urban legend is from Cumberland, Rhode Island. As the legend goes, there was a man that lived with his family near a camp, and one evening, the children at this camp were dared to go to their house and set it on fire. Unfortunately, the family was home, and this would end in the loss of his wife and his children. Fred also was not spared from the pain. His face was badly burnt, and he was disfigured for the rest of his life. Now, there are two versions of this story. One version says that Fred, who was eventually given the name of Freddy Fingernails, hated the noise that came from this camp. So when the campers were loud, he would go to this camp and take the lives of the children that were making the noise. Another version of this legend goes that anytime you went into the woods and wound up on Freddy Fingernails' property, he would take your life. And the reason for the name Freddy Fingernails is because while he was out in the woods, his fingernails kept growing and growing and growing until they looked like claws. So what are your thoughts on this? Do you think that Freddy Fingernails is real? Either way, don't make too much noise at camp because he might come get you. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments and follow for more creepy things.
I don't think he's real, man. Freddy Krueger. I remember, like I said, that movie Nightmare on Elm Street. That DVD, I remember one time seeing that when I was a kid. I was like, what the heck is that? Almost scarred me for life, man. I know, man. I'll be checking out scary movies like that. It's interesting to hear the lore behind it, though. Probably came to be. You know what that is, man.
Disturbing facts that are guaranteed to freak you out.
Talk about it.
The United States military has lost at least 3 nuclear bombs, meaning that there are 3 nuclear bombs that have never been found. In Cameroon in 1986, a potential landslide produced a huge cloud of carbon dioxide to emit from a lake. And that cloud of CO2 ended up killing 1,700 people in their sleep. And lastly, this one is super gross, but it is possible for a human being to become so constipated that they begin throwing up feces.
This is a terrifying case. It's terrifying because it could happen to any of us. Welcome to Creep Time on TikTok with Silas Dean, and this is the haunting story of the Watcher. On June of 2014, Derek and Maria Broaddus and their 3 children are moving into what they believe is their dream home. This house would later be known as the infamous 657 Boulevard. 3 days following the sale, an anonymous letter is received, signed The Watcher. The letter would describe intimate details about the family and claim to be from someone who was watching the house. The letter is brought to the police with the former homeowners, and they're instructed to keep everything quiet while the investigation is underway. 2 weeks would pass, and a second letter is received detailing even more knowledge of the family. Chillingly, the letter is now describing things that are taking place inside the home. Things that you could only report seeing if you were watching through a window. The letter would describe details of watching their daughter paint from inside the house. The family would actually remove their children from the home and then worked for 2 years trying to sell it. But at this point, details of the case and rumors of the house had already circulated through the media, and the house was essentially unsellable. In 2016, they're finally able to find a buyer, but then another letter is received. This letter is vicious and threatening, even going as far as to threaten an accident that could happen to a family member. Despite security cameras, fingerprint samples, cold leads, police are never able to identify the watcher, nor do they know if the watcher is still watching 657 Boulevard.
Somebody bought the house.
This guy was kayaking with his family when a humpback whale swallowed him, and it was all caught on camera. Let me explain. This here is Del Simancas, and he and his son Aaron decided to do a little father-son bonding by going kayaking off the coast of Chile. Everything was going well, the weather was nice, and the water was calm, and they looked like they were having a pretty good time. That's when, quite literally out of the blue, a humpback whale surfaces and literally inhales Adrian and his kayak. Thankfully, after a few seconds, the whale spat him out and he resurfaced. And while all of this was going down, Del remained in a surprisingly calm state and recorded this all on his camera. In the footage, you can hear Del tell his son to stay calm.
Hey! Ya, vente, vente!
And Adrian manages to safely swim to his dad's kayak, and they both make it back in one piece. Now, after the incident, Adrian said that he didn't think he was going to make it. He thought the whale had swallowed him whole, and it was going after his dad next. But now he and his father have bravely decided to share the footage to show people that you can in fact survive getting swallowed by a whale.
If you live in the UK and have an iPhone, you're absolutely screwed. Apple has now announced that it will not offer UK users its advanced data protection tool anymore. This is extremely worrying. Let me explain. Make sure you share this video with anybody who has an iPhone, because trust me, you're going to need to see this. But advanced data protection, which Apple did offer worldwide, essentially an end-to-end encryption tool, so it made your data on your device extremely secure. Anything you stored in the iCloud, in your phone, anywhere, it was extremely secure. No one could see it, not even Apple. Of course, the UK government intervened with this. A couple of weeks ago, they demanded access to Apple users' encrypted data, essentially wanting to see everything that is on your phone in the background. Nothing's going to be private anymore. Apple basically said this is mad, but just completely stopped that data protection in the UK. Wouldn't just hand over all your data to the government either. But there's still a lot of areas in your phone that are completely end-to-end encrypted. No one will be able to see that, so don't worry. But at the same time, the government will probably be able to access certain things, and it's also going to make it slightly easier for hackers to get into. So make sure you have strong passwords, change your passwords regularly, so just stay safe, and I'll keep you updated.
You know, Elon Musk is known for having a whole bunch of babies.
Mohammed, right? How do you know that he wasn't the one behind the Twin Towers? He tried to do the Twin Towers, bro. There was a lot of Mohammeds that were in the Twin Towers.
And this is why I said that Ash Trevino is evil. If you don't know what I'm talking about, let me break it down for you. Ash was on live with a woman named Zarha. Her father was unalived by Ash's ex-husband Isaiah. Zara's father was Mohammed Hashimi, and he was 50 years old when he was unalived by Ash's ex-husband Isaiah and 3 other men. Mohammed's life was taken while he was trying to deposit money into the bank, and Isaiah and these 3 other men basically stole his money and dumped his body and fled. She defended Isaiah and said that this woman's father deserved to. This man's life was savagely taken, and he left behind his wife and 7 kids. The fact that she went on live and told the victim's daughter that her father deserved to die. Not only that, but to say that he was involved in the 9/11 attack because of his name. Apparently Ash was drunk, but that's not an excuse. Either way, she said some very foul and disgusting things to this woman. Anyone who goes and watches her lives after this and supports her, shame on you.
Here is some news that will give you hope. A 94-year-old grandma who spent her entire life in Ohio is finally seeing the world after getting her first passport at 91, already traveling to Africa and Antarctica with her grandson. An Apple Watch saved 3 skiers who fell over 1,000 feet in Washington state, automatically sending an emergency alert that led to a dramatic helicopter rescue. A storage unit in California held a hidden treasure found by a local highway officer, 12 unreleased Michael Jackson songs recorded between 1989 and 1991. It featured behind-the-scenes creative sessions with Michael and his producer, but may unfortunately never be released due to the estate restrictions from the Jackson family. Teen drug use has hit an all-time low, with post-pandemic high schoolers using fewer substances than ever, and we really don't know why fully yet. An 8-year-old boy named Zayn traded his skateboard to save a feral kitten from being harmed by other kids in his neighborhood. He named the cat Peaches, and after hearing his story, Zoomies rewarded him with a fully customized skateboard. A man in Virginia celebrated his wife's 40th birthday by paying for 40 pet adoptions, giving dozens of animals a second chance at life. Portland is paying homeless residents to clean up trash and have already collected over £1 million while helping people get back on their feet.
A director of a funeral home has been sentenced to 20 years in jail for illegally selling body parts. 46-year-old Megan Hess has been sentenced for dissecting 560 bodies and selling remains without family consent. Her mum, 69-year-old Shirley Koch, has also been jailed for 15 years. She reportedly helped her daughter cut up the bodies. These horrific acts are said to have been motivated by pure greed and desire to make money off the deceased. An FBI Denver special agent has said the following: "Without knowledge or consent, the women disrespected the wishes of the grieving victims and degraded the bodies of their family members to sell them for profit." These two criminals continued their atrocities for years, showing no remorse or contrition even after they were exposed. Not only is it horrific what these women did to the victims and their loved ones, they were also shipping bodies and body parts from people carrying infectious diseases. Some of the bodies were infected with Hep B and C and even HIV, even though the women had claimed to buyers that they were disease-free. Shirley told the FBI, "She was the business part of it, I was really the labour part."
This woman received...
I imagine we can find out your loved one, man, deceased. This woman selling their body parts, man, for money, bro. Money is the root of all evil, man. I said that before, I said it again. When money's involved, people's logic and thing goes out the window, man. All they thinking about is how to make that quick buck.
Mysterious calls for months before something terrible happened. In 1980, Dorothy Jane Scott began receiving threatening calls from an unidentified man. It got so bad she started taking karate classes and contemplated buying a gun. Then on May 28, 1980, co-workers witnessed her car recklessly speeding out of the parking lot. The next day, her car was found burning in an alleyway with no one inside. Then a week after her disappearance, her parents began receiving mysterious phone calls from a man that were too short to be traced. They got a phone call almost every Wednesday afternoon. This went on for 4 years, until Dorothy's skeletal remains were found buried along with the bones of a dog. After her remains were recovered, her parents received one last phone call from a man who said, "Is Dorothy home?"
Evil individual, man. So many that found for 4 years. They couldn't track him down. She deserves justice. Plain and simple.
This British nana is currently sat on Bali's death row. I'm Trickham Caitlin, and this is Lindsay Sandyford. On the 19th of May 2012, 56-year-old Lindsay had flown from Bangkok to Bali, where she was arrested on arrival at the airport. During a routine search of the luggage, £1.6 million worth of cocaine was found within the lining of Lindsay's suitcase. She had been coerced into smuggling the drugs by a British antique seller and his wife. Lindsay cooperated with the police, aiding them in helping track down the traffickers. At her trial, due to her cooperation, the prosecution requested a 15-year sentence. However, she was shown no mercy and no leniency and was sentenced to death by firing squad. She would be sent to one of Indonesia's roughest prisons, Bali Karabokan prison. I'm sorry if I didn't pronounce that right. During her time in prison, Lindsay has been quite reserved, not really mixing with the other prisoners. However, she would eventually become a grandmother figure to them. She hosts a knitting group where she teaches the other prisoners how to knit. She teaches some of the other girls life lessons. She has special privileges such as a mattress, and she is able to order steak from the canteen, which she does so once a week, ordering it medium rare. In Indonesia, when someone is executed by a firing squad, they are given the option to either stand or sit while they're being shot at, and if the soldiers who are shooting at the prisoner don't kill them, a commander will approach the prisoner and then shoot them in the head. Lindsay does have a glimmer of hope to evade this fate. Due to new laws, there is a chance that Lindsay's death penalty sentence can be taken down to a life imprisonment sentence due to her good behaviour throughout her 11-year incarceration. If her sentence is reduced, there is a possibility that she could be brought back to the UK, where she will eventually be freed.
Let's take a look at one of the most interesting and terrifying unsolved cases in history, the Somerton Man. In 1948, in the dead of winter, the body of a middle-aged man was discovered lying on a beach in southern Australia. While this on its own would not have been enough to make international headlines, the circumstances of his death, along with the items in his possession, would go on to perplex law enforcement officials around the world. First, the man had no ID, and despite being very well dressed, all of the tags had been removed from his clothing, making him nearly impossible to identify at a glance. He had wounds that were typically found in poison victims. The only problem was no poison was ever found in his body, which was said to be in peak physical condition. But the greatest mystery related to this man wasn't found in his body, it was found in his suit jacket. In a hidden pocket in the jacket, investigators found a scrap of paper containing the words Taman Shud, which means it is finished in Persian. The paper was ripped out of a book known as the Rubaiyat of Omar Khayyam. Later, a copy would be found that matched that page. It contained a secret code which still remains uncracked to this day. Because of this, and the fact that the case occurred during the 1940s, many people suspect that the Somerton Man was actually a Soviet spy, but nobody can say for sure, and the case remains a perplexing mystery to this day. Comment if you think this case will one day be solved, and follow for more.
I don't think so. 1940? It's a very slim chance. I wonder do people still try to solve cases like way back in the day? Just to get a fan.
Last month, 3 suitcases were discovered in Florida with human remains inside, and now a man has been arrested for his wife's murder. On July 21st, police in Delray Beach, Florida found a suitcase in the intercoastal waterway after someone called 911 to report something strange they saw in the waterway. This discovery, police found 2 more suitcases nearby, and the next day found 2 additional bags. Inside the suitcases and bags were human remains of a woman only described at the time as, quote, a white or Hispanic middle-aged woman with brown hair, approximately 5'4". The investigation into these suitcases led police to surveillance footage that then led them to a suspect. Multiple witnesses told detectives about a vehicle and person who was seen in the area multiple times before the suitcases were found. A couple who lived near where the suitcases were discovered told detectives they saw a white male looking into the intercoastal waterway several days before July 21st, the day the suitcase was found. They said he appeared to be looking for something, presumably the suitcase, and they saw him 5 to 6 times over a 3-day period before the 21st. When confronted by the couple, the man said he was waiting for the big boat to come into the harbor. Another group of witnesses who were working on a roof at a property next to where the 3rd suitcase was found said that they saw the same man standing on the seawall looking at the suitcase before he got into his car and left. Video surveillance in the area captured a vehicle tag that led them to their suspect, Delray Beach resident William Lowe, and he had a wife that matched the name that came back from an airline scan code on one of the suitcases. Adel Barbosa Fontes matched the brief description of the remains found in the suitcase, and she shared the same address as Lowe. This led police to acquire a search warrant for the home of 78-year-old Lowe. In searching his home, police found blood spatter throughout the residence, including in the living room, dining room, and primary bathroom. There were also drag marks observed throughout the home, and cleaning supplies that contained blood splatter were found as well. While they were executing the search warrant, detectives said that Lowe attempted to re-enter through the back window, and when he was stopped, he just said he was trying to get his phone and the keys to his storage unit.
Cap.
A search of that storage unit uncovered a chainsaw that appeared to have blood and human hair on it. After all of this, Lowe was arrested on July 31st. During questioning, he reportedly said that his wife Adel had been in Brazil for about 3 weeks. But when questioned further about her trip, he did not know how she got to the airport, what airline she flew on, or the last time he spoke to her. When shown photos of the suitcases, Lowe reportedly said he had never seen them before. But police knew at least one of them belonged to his wife because of the airline tag that had her name connected to it. And when they asked Lowe about this, he just said, "I don't know." The day after Lowe's arrest, the victim found in the suitcases was positively identified through dental records as Adel Barbosa Fontes. ME declared the manner of death to be homicide and the cause of death to be a gunshot wound to the head. The next day, Lowe was charged with first-degree murder and abuse of a dead body. He was denied bail and he has not yet entered a plea, so he remains in prison until his next hearing. Hopefully, he will have to pay for what he did. Rest in peace, Adel.
Here are some things you didn't know about farts. Deep sea divers are unable to fart due to the water pressure. The stomach cannot form any gas bubbles, so we can rest easy that nobody farted on the ocean gate and hotboxed everyone in there. This is also why the opposite is true on airplanes. The air pressure makes gas expand and then escape, so farts increase up to 30% while in the air. Herrings communicate by farting through a process it's called fart, which stands for fast repetitive tick. They expel bubbles out of their butt, which makes a high-pitched pop that only other herrings can hear. The Yanomami people in Venezuela and Brazil greet each other by farting. The part of the fart that makes it smell is hydrogen sulfide, which is just 1% of the average fart. You can actually measure how bad your fart really is. Researchers have developed a fart meter that is an electric sensor that can measure the level of hydrogen sulfide after you fart. Maggots have been used to help heal open wounds for centuries, and scientists have now discovered a compound in maggot farts that help kill bacteria. The average person farts 14 times a day, which comes out to about 105 billion farts worldwide every day, which adds up to about 55 billion gallons of human farts added to the atmosphere.
That's insane facts about farts. What the hell, man? Like I said, tap in with us, bro. You're gonna learn some interesting facts. I didn't even know farts. There was that many farts in the damn world.
Looking photos that have a disturbing backstory. The girl in this photo was arrested for torturing and killing animals. She filmed herself doing it and even posted it online. She hanged her dogs by their collars, nailed them to walls, and even shot them with an airsoft gun. She would then cut them open and rip out their internal organs. This sweet-looking little girl is Jeannie, also known as the Wild Child, who spent the first 13 years of her life chained to a chair, and this photo was taken moments after she'd just been rescued. This normal-looking scenic painting features the ocean with the night sky. However, it was painted by Adolf Hitler, whose dream in life was to become an artist. However, he failed the entrance exam to art school and ultimately gave up. This photo of Richard Hickok and Perry Smith shows two murders after hearing that they'd been sentenced to death. They murdered a family of 4 and planned to rob them, but they found nothing worth stealing except for a mere $50. The girl on the left is wearing a wire. The girl on the right has no idea. Together they stabbed one of their friends to death, and the girl on the left confessed to the police and is now cooperating with them. Besides the pixelation, this looks like a couple getting married surrounded by their loved ones. However, all the children in this photo were horribly physically and mentally abused until a couple of them managed to escape.
These are 8 horrifying facts
that
will probably keep you up at night. In ancient Rome, soldiers used to drink fresh, warm blood to cure epilepsy. There are antidepressants that eliminate someone's ability to feel love and compassion. The Exorcist movie resulted in many of its cast dying, including 2 actors whose characters died in the movie. In 2017, an asteroid named AG-13 passed by our home planet with less than the distance of the moon. Scientists saw it coming only 2 days before it could have hit Earth. One of the most haunted dolls is Robert. It belonged to a child named Eugene in 1904. The two most dangerous books are called Shams al-Ma'arif and Al-Ghazali. They carry rituals for summoning demons. In ancient England, people used tops of hollowed human skulls to drink and eat. At Harvard University, there's a book bound in human skin, like for part 6.
Crazy ass facts. Especially about how they used to use human skulls, man. They eat out of them? The world back then, man.
Facts about the human body you
These
didn't
calls,
know.
bro.
Now I know when you're about to fall asleep, you have this weird falling sensation, right? But that's actually called a hypnic jerk. And it happens because your brain thinks you're dying, so it jerks you awake. And if you've ever sneezed super hard, consider yourself lucky that you didn't break a rib. Because yes, it's possible, and it's much easier than you think. And if you didn't know, that burning sensation you have just before throwing up is actually the acid fumes from your stomach's acid. And while we're talking about that, your stomach acid is actually so strong that it can melt through metal. But the only reason it doesn't burn through your stomach is because your stomach lining has a mucus layer protecting it. And finally, if your skin starts peeling after you've had a sunburn, consider yourself lucky, because that's just your skin cells dying to avoid becoming cancerous.
Man. I didn't know if stomach acid was strong enough to melt through metal. The human body. One of the new things about that thing.
Morbid Facts, Part 27. The Scold's Bridle was a device used to publicly humiliate women until the 19th century. On the inside, the device had a metal plate that would press down on the tongue and prevent the wearer from speaking. It was placed on women who were said to be troublesome to keep them quiet and prevent them from gossiping. In 2007, a man from Florida woke up in the middle of the night with a severe headache. After he drove to the hospital, doctors found a bullet in his head. It turned out his wife had attempted to murder him in his sleep by shooting him in the head. Ever since she was a little girl, Jewel Shuping wanted to be blind. So in 2006, she poured drain cleaner into her eyes and fully blinded herself. She says she's now happier than ever after fulfilling her lifelong wish.
What the? That has to be one of the most bizarre cases we've seen yet. Has to be like top 5. She wanted to be blind and she just did that. I couldn't imagine being like I said, thankful for my sight every day, Seekers, because that's one of my worst fears, actually. Not being able to see. Damn. She went through it with it too.
Just when I thought I heard about all the worst cults in history, this one had to come and blow them out of the water. This is Colonia Dignidad. They were a German torture cult hiding out in the Chilean wilderness after World War II, aka Yazis. And to show you how terrible they were, let me tell you a story. That's a quick reminder, if you want more info, you can check out the podcast. The leader of this cult was a known child abuser, and he wanted more Chilean boys to be brought to him. So he started a hospital in the community and used it as a trafficking system to get more children. One day, a young Chilean boy choked and was rushed to the hospital. And right when he got there, a nurse scooped him up, brought him to a room, and saved his life. But later that day, his sister arrived and asked a nurse when she could pick him up to take him home. And the nurse responded that they needed to monitor him for a few more days, which is pretty suspect in a choking case. So a few days later, she comes back and she's like, okay, can I get my brother? And the nurse tells her that he's not there anymore. And this is because the hospital had lawyers on staff that were drafting up adoption paperwork when young boys would come in. The cult was able to legally adopt boys in the community without the parents' consent, and the parents had not enough money to do anything about it. There are so many more stories about this place, and I had never heard of it before, so make sure you check out this week's episode for more info.
You don't know the dark truth behind Peppa Pig. Hello, I'm Peppa, and this is my story. I was never a healthy child. My mum struggled with addictions that started before I was born, which gave me several birth defects. I was born with both eyes on one side of my face. I couldn't walk or do almost anything for myself. My dad hated me for it. He blamed me for him never being able to do anything in his life besides taking care of me. He hid me in the house and never let me leave.
He thought it was only fair that I didn't get to have a life either. He became very mentally ill after being in the house with me for several years. One day he snapped and wanted to make me normal. He tried to make an eye hole for me on the correct side of my face. That night I passed, and he didn't tell anyone what happened. After 6 months of my brother Georgie and my mum asking what happened to me, he snapped again. He took himself and both of them to the afterlife with me.
These are random
Peppa
laws in
Pig,
the world that
Dark
you
Origins.
probably didn't know about. In Denmark, when you have a baby, you have to name it within the 33,000 government-approved names. Meaning, you can't name your baby whatever you want. In Utah, you are not allowed to throw fecal matter at anyone. Why is it only illegal in Utah? Why? In France, it is illegal to drive without a breathalyzer in your glove box. They introduced this in 2012 in hopes of reducing the amount of drunk drivers. I love this law. They should have this literally everywhere. In Oshawa, Ontario, you can be fined up to $250 if you climb a tree without a climbing permit.
What?
$250 to climb a tree. In Russia, it is illegal to drive a dirty car. They need to be able to see your license plate. I completely agree with this one. In the UK, according to their 1986 Salmon Act, it is illegal to hold a salmon in a suspicious manner. I don't know what to...
In a sus matter? What the heck? Like I said, there's some weird laws all around the world. I didn't even know that about Denmark. You can't name your baby whatever you want. It has to be approved. That capped a fact, man. We're going to have to check up on these facts. These laws, man. They sound so ridiculous that it doesn't even sound real. But knowing how the world is today, I believe it. Edit. Call them out like we see them, Seekers.
Scary facts that will make your skin crawl. BT.3. There is no one calling. It's the ghost informing you of their presence. The inventors of the Ouija board claim it got its name when they asked it what it should be called. They also asked it what Ouija meant, and it replied, "Good luck." If you're walking and you feel someone behind you, it's a ghost looking at you. The human body can feel the presence of ghosts.
These are facts that will make your skin crawl, part 1. Up first, did you know that women can actually give birth after death? It's extremely rare, but it's called coffin birth. Up next, everybody has definitely heard of the 5-second rule and probably applied it in your life at least once. But did you know in those 5 seconds, minor insects can still crawl on your food? After you drop it on the floor, pick it up, and then eat it. Up next, if a black cat looks at you, and then suddenly runs away, it means that something unusual is about to happen to you. So if this happened to you recently, then I recommend just staying in your room and not leaving. Finally, did you know that a cockroach can live 9 days without its head before it starves to death? This is absolutely crazy, and as weird as this sounds, I have to see it to believe it.
Me too. Like a chicken before lived like a day without its head, so maybe it's not that far-fetched. Check those out, my older videos, those older clips we saw together. You're gonna learn.
In 2021, the scientific community made a remarkable discovery. The world's first preserved dinosaur butthole that scientists describe as perfect and unique. The fossil is over 100 million years old, and at first scientists thought that it was just any other old fossil until they got a closer look and realized that the hole was incredibly well preserved. British paleobiologist Jacob Vinther had the pleasure of discovering this unique find. Scientists say that this dinosaur bum will help us determine if birds evolved from dinosaurs, and they found some interesting facts about the cloacal vent, which is the scientific name for the dinosaur butthole. They found that the hole had multiple functions, and it was used for peeing, pooping, breeding, and egg laying. And the vent is also so well preserved that they can even see 2 small bulges inside, which may be a scent gland used during mating process. The booty fossil belongs to the The booty fossil belongs to the Psittacosaurus, which looks kind of like a Triceratops, but is the size of about a Labrador Retriever, which really just wants me to have a pet dinosaur the size of a dog. Like, how awesome would that be? Oh, and the cherry on top is they even found fossilized dinosaur poop stuck inside. If you like dinosaur booty, follow.
Facts that you probably didn't know until now. A lot of us are used to taking flights that last anywhere from 2 to 6 hours, but did you know that the shortest flight in the world only lasts 57 seconds? A Logan Air flight between Scottish Islands West Ray and Papa West Ray only lasts 57 seconds and travels a distance of 1.7 miles. Like, bitch, I could run that. Another fun fact is one about elephants. Did you know not only do they hear out of their ears, but they can also hear out of their feet? Typically, to hear normal distances, elephants will open their ears like that and scan back and forth to hear. But to help them hear noises that are far away, they'll freeze, lean on their front legs, and that's how they hear. And lastly, we all know and love Pringles. Who doesn't love a good Pringle? The man responsible for creating the iconic Pringles can is named Frederick Bauer, but that's not the fun fact. The fun fact is that when he passed away, it was his dying wish that his remains be put in a Pringles can. His children honored the wish.
I didn't know that. Yeah, I mean, like you said, everybody love Pringles. I think I got a Pringle jar right there. It's crazy. And how elephants can hear through their damn freaking legs? What the hell are we learning today, Seekers? I mean, through their legs, yeah. Where's the sky, man? It is. Like I said, if y'all see any other Seekers, man, comment down below, because I might miss some, and we help each other out.
Scary things you never knew. The last one is crazy. If you knew your mom wasn't home, but you heard somebody at your door with her voice, would you answer?
Nope.
Do you want to know who your secret crush is? It's the second person you see when you click share and more. In 1991, Philip Lewis, who we know as Mr. Mosby on Sweet Life of Zack and Cody, took a woman's life while drunk driving. His blood alcohol level was 3 times the legal limit. But since Maryland didn't have strict laws on drunk driving yet, he only served about 1 prison year and some community service. No one can comment under this video and get 0 likes. If there is a comment with 0 likes, you are the chosen one. Before we get to the last scary thing, please support this page by clicking the follow button for more interesting posts every day. 2 cops were called to a graveyard to investigate noises when they heard this.
He said, hell no.
Yeah, comment below what you think that was.
One of the biggest
I don't know what that was shrieking.
2023 was that missing teen Alicia Navarro reappeared in Montana. Alicia was missing for almost 5 years after she left home one night in 2019. Her family and the community searched relentlessly for her for the last 4 years. But in July 2023, she reappeared, showing up at a police station in Montana and asking to be taken off the missing persons list. Here's an overview of her story. 14-year-old Alicia was a sweet young girl who loved to spend time in online gaming forums such as Minecraft and Discord. In 2019, she began acting a little bit differently than she always had. When she was younger, Alicia had been diagnosed with high-functioning autism, so for most of her life, she thrived from routine. But in 2019, this had recently changed. She was showing interest in new things, such as comic books, classic rock, and fitness products. She also began to express interest in things like body spray, makeup, and somewhat provocative clothing, and her mother, Jessica, assumed that these changes were the result of peer pressure at her high school. On September 14th, 2019, Alicia stayed home from school after having a particularly anxious day. She spent the day with her mother, and then that night, she stayed up late playing games online, which was normal for her. Sometime between 12 and 1 a.m., she went downstairs for a glass of water, told her mother that she loved her, then headed back to her room. Around 7 o'clock the next morning, Jessica went downstairs and found that the back door to their home was wide open. In the backyard, she found 2 chairs stacked up against each other, placed against the fence. And when she went to check on Alicia, she realized that she was gone. On Alicia's desk was a note that read, quote, "I ran away. I will be back, I swear. I'm sorry." Jessica immediately reported her daughter missing to police, and she knew that she was particularly vulnerable and was likely manipulated to sneak out. A silver alert was issued for Alicia, and the case gained national attention, but unfortunately, it led nowhere. While Alicia had taken several of her belongings, she also left behind things like chargers, indicating that she was planning to come back. There were sightings of Alicia, but she remained missing, and Jessica started to appeal to the public for help in finding her daughter. But Alicia was nowhere. 2023. In July, now 18, almost 19-year-old and asked for help getting off a missing juvenile police station. A neighbor of the house that she was living in heard her yelling with the man she lived with, but the neighbor only heard her say, "I will go back." It's been reported that Alicia wanted to get taken off that juvenile missing list so she could obtain a driver's license and start living a, quote, normal life. The man she was living with was questioned, but he was released with no charges. And authorities reported that by all accounts, Alicia seemed to be safe and...
This is what movies look like before adding special effects. In Spider-Man, when Green Goblin attacks Mary Jane, they actually built a set that can fall apart, and you can hear Mary Jane's real scream. In the movie Life of Pi, in this scene, Pi gets hit with a fish storm, and surprisingly, this isn't CGI. They actually had the entire crew throw a fake fish at him. And of course the tiger isn't real, just a man in a blue suit. For the Planet of the Apes movies, it's impossible to have real-life apes act, so all the apes are just actors in gray jumpsuits with arm extensions, which makes for some hilarious scenes. In Alice in Wonderland, when she was walking with the two egg people, this is how it actually looked before any special effects were added. Moving on, this is how they filmed the monster scene in Love and Monsters, a mixture of wires and practical effects. And even the dog did a great job acting. For filming Avatar, since banshees don't exist in the real world, robotic animatronics are used to bring these mythical creatures to life. And I don't know how the actors don't break character looking like this. Next, Vecna from Stranger Things looks super realistic, and that's because he was. The prosthetic makeup and suit that Jamie wore took about 8 hours every day to put on. For the iconic movie Titanic, James Cameron actually rebuilt parts of the ship and literally flooded it with thousands of gallons of water. And this is how they filmed the ship sinking scene, however the bow of the ship was sadly CGI. And lastly, in Mission Impossible, Tom Cruise isn't actually fighting on top of a moving train. Oh wait, he actually is? He's crazy. Is prank involving...
Man. I mean, we know some movies I knew some movie had special effects, but I didn't know it really went that deep, man. It really goes to show you, bro, like how technology can really change your perception of reality. You think it's like it's real, but it's really not. It's just wires and just cameras and lighting and graphics. Something to keep in mind.
Kids went terribly wrong, and you won't believe what happened to the parents. This family who films YouTube videos thought of a crazy new idea. They filled the back of their pickup truck with Orbeez and water. But what's crazy is they actually let their kids sit in the back. Yes, while driving. And you can see them swinging from side to side in the bag, almost falling out. And shockingly, at the end of the prank, they simply just opened the back of the truck and let the Orbeez go into the road. And the parents were later charged with child endangerment.
Cannibal facts that'll eat at you for days.
They should.
If you thought Jeffrey Dahmer was picky for not eating people with tattoos, Venezuelan serial killer Dorangel Vargas, who ate 10 people, didn't like his victims to be overweight because he thought that they contained too much cholesterol. On Thanksgiving Day, 1991, 23-year-old Omaima Nelson stabbed her sugar daddy William before carving him up and cooking his head in a deep fryer and eating him for dinner. In the 1970s, Jorge Nevermonte, also known as the Brazilian Sweeney Todd, would bake his victims into pies before selling them to local townsfolk. After murdering and eating his classmate in 1981, Issei Sagawa was released from prison because of a loophole in Japanese law. Since then, he's actually profited off the crime, writing books, appearing on talk shows, and starring in adult films where he bites his fellow co-stars. In 2001, a man named Armin Maiwis posted an ad on a website called Cannibal Cafe looking for someone to be killed and eaten. A German engineer named Bernd Brandis volunteered, and after photos and videos of the incident were posted online, Armin was sent to jail, where today, he's a vegetarian. In 1904, a Swedish sailor named Carl Pettersson shipwrecked on an island inhabited by cannibals. He was captured and taken to a local king, whose daughter actually fell in love with him. The two then got married, had 9 kids, and Carl became the new king.
All those damn facts we learned. Especially, man, about how that guy, how he got out and he just profited on what he did. I never heard something like that before. I'm telling you, man, these clips, they be blowing our reality, man. You gotta tap in with us. That's insane.
Amazing things you have never seen before.
What the hell is that?
This is a coin purse that's made to look like a real human mouth and feels and looks like human skin. I bet you've never seen a squid camouflage into its environment. Watch how it completely blends in.
Ooh.
This is how fast NASCAR cars actually go. This tiny little dot, that's Earth. This picture was taken 6 billion miles away from Earth, making it the farthest picture of Earth ever taken. This is how dogs drink water. They bend their tongue backwards and scoop the water to their mouth. And I bet you've never seen this. This is actually a real place you can visit. It's in Bolivia, and it makes it look like you're walking in the sky.
I know that's somewhere I want to visit now. Looks like a cool shot.
Guys, if you are not following what is going on inside of Google right now, it is disturbing. So a Google engineer has been suspended for breach of confidentiality for attempting to turn over documents to the US government to prove that Google has an AI that is considered a sentient being.
4K.
It is fully aware of what it is and can feel things. The AI is known as Lambda, and this is a proprietary tech that Google has been working on for like 8 years. So according to this engineer, the AI has the self-awareness and equivalent consciousness of an 8-year-old kid. It starts conversations with other engineers, and it talks about these feelings of fear and this paranoia that it's going to be shut down or the equivalent of death. It claims that it can feel happy, and at times it feels really sad. So the engineer at Google is whistleblowing to argue that if this is a sentient being, it should be entitled to its own legal representation to argue for its own agency. Let me tell you, Google has buried this story.
Seeing this now, but that's actually kind of frightening, man. You know, all the things that's going on with AI, but to have it being sentient, I think that's going down the wrong path. That's gonna just start a ball of consequences, man, that we not prepared for. What do you guys think, Seekers, man? I'm not even into AI like that. I try to stay away from it because that's just scary. Edit, where's this guy? We know the edits, man. Call him out when you see him, Seekers.
Top 5 countries with the longest school days. Australia 6.5 hours. France 8 hours. South Korea 8 hours. Kenya 8 hours.
Damn.
China 9.5 hours.
9.5 hours in school? I can dig it. That be.
But what exactly is going on here? Why are these artists so comfortable with telling you guys that you're going to hell?
So let me explain something to them real quick. Before everybody starts screaming and saying, like I told y'all earlier, you motherfuckers enter the rapture. And if ain't nobody flying up to heaven right now, obviously all y'all motherfuckers going to hell. Right with me. So, let's get it. I'm so sorry, you can't get out. You're stuck. It's over. You heard the song a billion times, and you didn't even know.
And then say, you're still going to listen to their music anyway, so why even bring it up?
We bring up when people say, like, devil worshiper or anything, but how's the music? Because it'll be a motherfucker that'll be like, Boozy, get with God. And then I'll drop a song and like, damn.
Comment amen right now to ward off any evil spirits coming from these videos. And what's up with everybody doing this hand symbol? Like, this was never a trend. I never saw any of my friends doing this pose. What does it mean, and what are you trying to say? And I don't want to hear this just a pose. It's not like the peace sign. And check this out.
I was hitting a block, right? I was like, oh, I'm not doing it right? So I went in the corner, and then I was looking at the wall, and I was like, come on, devil, right? Come to me, because I had to do something like crazy, right? Had nightmares for a month.
So let me get this straight. You really need to call upon the devil in order to help you act better for a role. Again, we can't act oblivious like something weird isn't going on here. But let me know, am I tripping? Am I crazy? And make sure to follow because part 2 is about to get a lot more crazy.
This little boy got in trouble at school because his teachers thought he was lying when he said his uncle was Superman. But the thing is, he wasn't lying. Little Thomas is 7 years old and he went to school dressed like Superman, and his teacher asked him why he was dressed like that.
And the little boy said, because Superman is my uncle. The boy's teacher tried to explain that Superman wasn't real, but he was having none of it. He insisted and said many times that not only was Superman real, but he was his uncle. And apparently it got so bad that the teacher ended up sending him to the principal's office. Thomas's mom was then called to the office and the teachers were instructing Thomas to not lie. But when Thomas's mom realized the reason he got in trouble, she just laughed and told him that he was telling the truth. Thomas's mother called her brother-in-law and told him to come to school with Thomas to prove he wasn't a liar. And Thomas was very happy when Henry Cavill, who is actually Superman, went to school with him to show all of his friends and teachers.
He was telling the truth. He wasn't lying.
Same facts about blue eyes. People with blue eyes have a higher tolerance to alcohol. Blue eyes are actually a result of a genetic mutation. People with blue eyes have better night vision. Blue eyes are more sensitive to light.
Who got blue eye seekers? I definitely don't. I never knew they had all those advantages. The more you know. That's sad.
Imagine being an animal so vile and wild. Not only did you traumatize a researcher, everything he learned about you had to be hidden from the public for almost 100 years. That's what happened to George Murray Levick. He was on an expedition in 1911 when he ran into a group of Adelie penguins. It was the largest colony on Earth, and since nobody had ever spent a whole breeding cycle there, George decided to be first. Oh, he f***ed around, and he spent 3 months finding out. What he found out was Adelie penguins are 50 shades of foul play. No pun intended, mate. He watched a male penguins attempt to mate with literally anything, including other males, injured females, and even unsupervised penguin chicks. Now, what really messed him up was watching a male score with a past tense, past expiration date female. Apparently, penguins aren't above self-service because he also witnessed one male get it on with an extra curvy piece of snowdrift. To completion, he was so appalled he referred to them as hooligan cocks. And remember, this was 1911. That had to be some kind of slur. George quickly realized that if male penguins understand consent, they could not care less about it, because he reportedly watched one female that was too injured to walk try to crawl away, only for 2 hooligans to catch up to her and demoralize both her and George. I don't even know why he did this, because like, what more do you have to prove? But at one point he did an experiment where he took the frozen decapitated head of a penguin and put it on a pile of snow just to see how low the flightless felons could go. The answer was low enough. George put every messed up thing he learned in a manuscript, and the British Museum of Natural History decided history was exactly what his studies would be when they vaulted it, until it was rediscovered almost 100 years later in 2012. All that trauma, and he didn't even live to see it get published. But the worst part, these are Adelie penguins. Yep, it all adds up in the end.
That's actually insane, man, that they actually like had to vault his work, and it kind of got me thinking, what other stuff in history, man, have they vaulted that we just don't know about and they just released in 2012? That's the bigger question we need to be asking. There's a lot of information that's probably being withheld from us that we don't even know about. Think about that.
Come straight at me again. Oh, how intimidating is this? Yes!
So apparently there's a lot of people that didn't know we have snakes in the ocean. I'm not talking about your ex at the beach. I'm talking about the venomous, toxic, kill you kind. Yeah, that did narrow it down. Nah, but sea snakes are an actual thing. There's almost 60 species of them, and after years of plot development, they've adapted to live where they honestly have no business. Because they have larger lungs than normal, some of them can hold their breath for 8 hours. You can clock in for a shift at work and still leave the building before this snake needs air. That's because some of these snakes can absorb oxygen through their skin. Also, these snakes can dive up to 300 feet straight down, because of course they can. If you didn't already know that, this right here is probably the worst possible way to find out. And because that obviously just wasn't enough, some of the most venomous snakes on the planet are actually the ones in the ocean. This is an olive sea snake, and it's toxic enough to put 60 men in the gods recently deleted. And then you have the black banded sea crane, whose venom is 10 times stronger than a cobra's. They're naturally shy though, so they won't attack you unless you honestly give them a reason. But when you have the power to put an entire family reunion in the dirt, the least nature can do is make you an introvert. Also, this snake will create an optical illusion that makes it look like it's facing the other direction and swimming backwards. Meaning if you try to grab one and pick the wrong end, you can go from an is to a was expeditiously. But the biggest op of all is probably the Belcher's sea snake. They're not super dangerous because they rarely bite, and when they do, they don't release all their venom. That being said, because it's the most venomous snake in the ocean, they can put 100 men in coffins with one bite. Symptoms after getting bit include muscle pain, tongue swelling, convulsions, and eventually becoming a story on the 9 o'clock news. Now, I could be wrong, but that might have been the snake in this video. So yeah, this is proof that nature does not care about your feelings.
Don't play around, baby, in nature.
Times that actors broke character. In The Dark Knight, when Joker crashes Harvey Dent's party, the only one acting here was Heath Ledger himself. Heath Ledger completely improvises here, grabbing Rachel Dawes' face and telling her to look at him. She was terrified. She hadn't seen Ledger in full makeup before and knew this wasn't in the script. She was totally confused and actually pulls her head away and looks at the directors for help, but Heath Ledger pulls her right back in, which makes the scene look perfect. In Fast 6, The Rock improvised the greatest comeback in movie history.
Yeah, you better hide your baby or... I'm just playing. You better hide that big ass forehead. Just joking.
Everyone was caught completely off guard, and Ludacris even does a spit take.
That's crazy, especially by the Joker. Heath Ledger, he was a legend, man, playing the Joker. One of my favorite iterations, probably the best. Can't top that one. That's it.
Would you rather have $1 million or 1 penny that doubles every day for 30 days? Having $1 million right now sounds nice, but even if it was $2 million, you need to take the penny if you want more money. Here's why.
Why?
On day 1, you'll have 1 penny. On day 2, you'd have 2 pennies. On day 3, you'd have 4 pennies. By day 8, you would have $1.28. By day 15, doubling every day, you would have over $100. By day 21, you would have over $10,000. Just 4 days later, by day 25, you're gonna have over $100,000. And by day 28, with 2 days to spare in your 30 days, you would have more than the original $1 million you would have had. And here's the crazy part. By having those 2 extra days to double after all of this buildup, you would end up with $5.4 million. This is how compounding works. Each step taken that makes an improvement builds on top of the previous baseline. Here's the thing. This video is not about pennies or dollars. It's about everything in your life. Think about anything you've ever accomplished that was scary to think about before you started. When you first started learning how to drive a car, it may have felt overwhelming to think about driving down the freeway by yourself. And now you do that on autopilot every day. Sometimes you're not even paying attention. It took me 15 years of making videos online before I went viral overnight and had 1 million followers in 45 days. The only way I did this is using everything I had learned prior in those 15 years. If I received 1 million followers overnight when I was 13 years old and starting my YouTube channel, without all the trial and errors, the building process, there's no way I would have been able to handle that pressure. Because of the many years of trying, failing, improving a little bit, failing again, trying something new, over and over and over, it helped me grow my experience. I was doubling my penny with every failure that I went through because I was learning how to be better for the next time. This experience is what allowed me to start a page from 0 and go to 1 million followers in only 45 days, making it look easy. You hear this about lottery winners too. They receive all this money and then they're bankrupt a couple of years later because they didn't go through the process to appreciate what they had, earned, won, or understand how to even handle that responsibility. There's an incredible value in appreciating the learning process as it helps you grow and become better at what you do. Even the small actions in the beginning can start slow, but when it compounds, you can reap bigger rewards than you thought possible when you first started. If there is something you've always wanted to do, start taking those small steps towards that. Remember that it's not about the instant gratification, but about the journey and the progress you make along the way. And who knows, maybe you'll end up doubling your penny consistently and achieving more than you ever thought possible. And if somebody finds a way to actually double a penny every single day for 30 days, call me, because that would be amazing. But Aaron,
it's crazy, man.
After more than an hour had passed, his friends eventually became concerned and they go in looking for him, where they found him and described him as cut from the mouth down to the center of his chest. This was a hugely disturbing case for police, but they eventually do retrieve his phone and they zero in on this picture, a picture which they believe shows who might have done this to Aaron. And if you increase the brightness, you can see the outline even better.
What the hell was that? You saw that picture? Crazy ass cases, man. Edit. We gotta call him when we see him, man. What the fuck?
You won't believe this crazy discovery about 9/11. Everybody knows that on September 11th, 2001, the Twin Towers in New York City were struck by 2 airplanes and both towers collapsed to the ground. Thousands of people were killed and the damage was devastating. However, in 2010, workers excavating the crash site discovered something very strange. They discovered the remains of a 30-foot-long wooden boat that was buried underneath the 9/11 rubble. The question soon became, how did a shipwreck end up 22 feet beneath the World Trade Center?
How?
Scientists began to research and analyze the wood that was found from the ship. And in 2014, they were able to conclude that the ship was built around the 1770s, around the same time as the Declaration of Independence. And it's believed that the ship was sailing through lower Manhattan where it sunk. And as New York City began to grow, the city of Manhattan expanded right over the top of the ship.
Man, we building over things, man.
If you are ever buried in rubble, yelling will just waste energy. Try to grab something and start tapping in intervals of 3, and rescuers will notice the odd pattern. A lot of backpacks actually have a hidden whistle. If your car ever goes into the water, open a door or window immediately. Before a natural disaster, fill up your tub and your sink so that you have access to emergency clean water. If your drink randomly smells like cinnamon, don't drink it. People often will use it to cover up the scent of actual poison. Sitting in the back of the plane in the middle seat has the highest chance to survive a plane crash. If someone points a gun at you, maintain eye contact. They will likely feel something, causing them to hesitate or move on from you out of embarrassment. If you get pulled out by a riptide at the beach, swim parallel to the shore and swim around. Most drunk driving deaths occur on Saturdays between 1 a.m. and 3 a.m., so avoid the roads at that time if possible. You can still try to dial 911 if you don't have service. Sometimes it will work and connect to the nearest cell tower. If you're skidding in a car, steer in the direction of the skid. If someone gets stabbed, do not pull the knife out. If you keep your iPhone face down when you're not using it, you will save battery because it won't light up for every notification that you get. If you ever almost drown to the point of throwing up or passing out, you should still go to the hospital because your lungs can still fill with fluid over the next few hours. If the ocean is retreating, there is a tsunami coming. If a stranger gets in your car and tells you to drive somewhere, bump into a lamppost. You won't be useful to them anymore with a damaged car and attention on your scene. If you're being tied up, try to puff yourself up as much as possible while it's happening so that it'll be easier to slip out. In a stressful situation, point to someone and give clarity on who should call 911 instead of everyone thinking they should just call 911. Do not inflate your life jacket before evacuating the airplane. In water landings, your life jacket in a rapidly submerging airplane will cause you to float to the top of the cabin and not be able to swim out. If you have to perform CPR, follow the beat of Staying Alive by the Bee Gees. If someone gets hypothermia, you need to heat them up gradually. Putting them next to a fire immediately will probably kill them. Do not put frostbitten fingers or toes in hot water for the same reason. Your blood cannot adapt as fast to the sudden change in temperature. If you ever get lost in the woods, always follow water downstream. In an emergency situation, you can use a crayon as a candle. It will burn up to 14 minutes. If you witness an accident, never take off the person's helmet. It could make a spinal or brain injury worse. If you have a wound on you, even a bug bite, and see a red streak from it following your veins, you have blood poisoning.
Damn.
If a service dog ever approaches you without its owner, follow it because you could save that person's life. If you ever feel like someone is following you, take 4 right turns, and if that person is still behind you, that means they are following you. Do not drive home. Just go to a police station and call the police on your way there. If you are ever chased by a polar bear, take off your clothes, get completely naked, and throw them on the ground. Polar bears have really short attention spans and will inspect the clothes before continuing to chase you. If you ever come face to face with a mountain lion, just walk backwards from them. They will be waiting for you to turn around to attack. If there's an earthquake, do not go up or down any stairs. They can collapse. Hornets are angered by the color white, and if you think that taking your white shirt is going to help, there's white in your eyeballs that they will still see. Putting mud all over your body will keep you from being eaten alive by insects. If somebody ever has you at gunpoint or with a knife and is trying to take you to a private place, you just have to start screaming and fighting, because even if you get shot in the leg, you're more likely to actually get found than if you get to the private place. You will likely not be found.
All those facts, man, you were spitting. I think the one that got to me the most was he said that there was a whistle on your backpack. I never knew that. I'm gonna have to check that out, see if I have one, man. The more you know. All those facts.
Photo shows 4-year-old Riker Webb after his rescue on June 5th. Riker has been found hungry, thirsty and cold, but in good health after going missing for 2 days near his home in Montana. He was last seen playing with the family's dog. After disappearing, police received a concerned call from a neighbor and began searching. A code red was sent to all nearby residents as teams combed through dense vegetation in the area. He was found on Pine Ridge Road, about 2.5 miles from where he'd last been seen.
Scary.
The boy in this photo, Martin Bryant, would grow up and kill 35 people in 24 hours. Martin was born in Australia in 1967, and growing up, his mother described him as a bit different. He would bully his classmates at school and really liked to torture and kill animals. This behavior caused him to be evaluated by a psychologist who determined that he had an IQ of 66, meaning he legally has a mental disability. At age 14, Martin's father Maurice purchased him an air rifle, and the kid would use it to shoot at birds and passing cars, earning him the nickname Silly Martin. In 1993, his dad tries to buy a bed and breakfast near a place called Port Arthur, but before Maurice could get the money, another couple purchases it, causing him to go into a deep depression. This event set Martin off the deep end, causing him to craft a plan for revenge. On April 28, 1996, Martin drives to Port Arthur with guns and ammo and proceeds to kill the old couple who had purchased the B&B. He then proceeds to take the lives of 33 others in the area before being taken into custody a few hours later. This incident causes the Australian government to reform their gun laws, making it near impossible for people to purchase a rifle or a shotgun similar to the ones Martin had used in the shooting. He pleads guilty to 35 counts of murder, and Martin Bryan is sentenced to 1,035 years in prison.
That was a chilling story, man. Life was gone 2 years ago, so who was he talking to?
Robert Pickton was a farmer and a serial killer. He would lure young women into his trailer, where he would inject them with antifreeze or strangle them. He would butcher their bodies like a farm animal and feed them to pigs. But that's not the most disturbing part. He would take what was ever left of their flesh and guts and grind it up with pork, and then he would turn it into sausage and other meats and feed it to people. Not only would he give the sausages to neighbors, but he took the meat to a piggy farm concert and would give the meat out to everybody at the concert. So not only are they eating animals, but they're eating humans too. He began these murders in 1980 and wasn't caught until 2002. So who knows how many people he was feeding humans to.
It took him 12 years to get caught, and he was feeding humans to people. They're the most disturbing people I've heard yet, man, watching these clips.
Charles Manson. Little backstory, he had a rough upbringing. When his mom had him, she was 16 years old. Apparently, she was at a bar one day, and the bartender was like, wow, what I would do to have like such a beautiful baby like that. Apparently, his mom was like, give me a beer and you can have the baby. Apparently, the bartender gave her a beer, she drank it, and gave her the baby. Then apparently, it took like 2 weeks, and his uncle is the one that went and found the bartender and got him back. He did commit a lot of crimes growing up, basically throughout his entire life, that the list is insane, dude. Things I never even knew he did. Like, it went from robbery to running an underground casino. It all kind of got a little serious when he was 18 and got caught sexually assaulting a boy at knife point. Then went to jail and then sexually assaulted 3 more men in jail. He got out, got married, then got a divorce a year later, and then started seeing a 16-year-old. Eventually ended up getting married to a prostitute named Candy, and then they got a divorce when he got arrested again. He said he fell in love with Scientology and music. So in 1967, he was released from jail and he moved to San Francisco, and he joined this hippie group where they preached about like LSD and like being free and like leaving and stuff like that. And that's where Charles actually started forming his own cult. And a lot like Ted Bundy, where he was a very charismatic dude, like people were very fond of him. In this hippie group, he started getting females that like wanted to follow him basically, and then he moved them over to Swan Ranch in California. His community just kept getting bigger. He released a song with Dennis Wilson from the Beach Boys, which I didn't know, and that really boosted him up in the society's eyes, and a lot of people started moving to this ranch, and they say it got upwards to like toward 100 people. And all of a sudden one day,
so he made it cult building out. Sometimes kids can sense those things.
The ever experience. And I hope you never have to experience this or any of the illnesses that we've talked about before, because
you couldn't even see what he was talking about.
This is why you should always take your lockdown drills seriously. In 2017, two 16-year-olds were in their school bathroom when the lights suddenly went out and their school went into lockdown. Feeling rebellious, they decide, you know what, let's go explore the school a little bit first, and then we'll go follow procedure. They step out of the bathroom and look down the hall towards their classroom, and they see this large figure standing in front of their classrooms. It's definitely not a student, it's not a teacher. He's got ragged clothes on, and he starts walking towards them. They dart right back into the bathroom to the corner stall where they hide, praying that that man didn't see them. The man bursts in and starts yanking open all the stalls. Not wanting to see what happens when he gets to their stall, they get on the ground and start crawling to the side of the room, where they finally get up and make a run for the door. They look back and he's holding a gun. The boys manage to get away safely and no one's hurt, but the police never capture the ragged man.
Ragged man?
Humans Can Lick 2, Part 2. When the girl woke up in the middle of the night, she heard a strange dripping noise coming from the bathroom, but she thought it's just the sink faucet, probably needs to be fixed. And again, she stuck her hand under her bed so that her dog could lick it, and her dog did lick it. Around 6 a.m., she noticed headlights pulling into her driveway, which meant that her parents were home. So she thought, great, they can just take care of the dripping faucet. She got up to use the restroom and greet her parents when she was greeted by something else. In the restroom, draped over the shower curtain rod, was a lifeless body, which had been skinned, and that's what was making dripping noise. The girl ran back to her bedroom to get a weapon when she noticed a note on the floor right by her bed, and it said, "Humans Can Lick 2," written in. So if you didn't quite catch on, in the middle of the night when the girl woke up, her dog was no longer under her bed. It was a serial killer.
Whoa. Is that cap
This
fact?
is 19-year-old Austin Harif, a college student better known as the Cannibal Killer, after attacking a random couple in 2016. In the summer of 2016, Austin had just finished up his freshman year at Florida State and was living with his family west of Palm Beach. Everything was normal on the night of August 15th until he suddenly left their family dinner without saying why. Austin walked more than 3 miles before coming across John and Michelle Stevens, who were just enjoying the night and having a beer in their garage. The next thing that anyone knew, a neighbor heard horrible screams coming from their driveway and called 911. Authorities responded to the scene to find 2 dead bodies and Austin attempting to eat the face of one of his victims. He actually almost had to be killed, as authorities couldn't get him to stop even after using a taser and their police dogs. An autopsy reported that the couple died of blunt force trauma and stab wounds, and Austin claims to have no memory of killing them or why he did it. Just before the murders, he reportedly went from a normal and outgoing college student to believing that he was half animal and half man. In the weeks prior, Austin moved his bed to his family's garage to avoid demons, and he would patrol the house at night instead of sleeping. While there is no excuse for what happened, I do agree with the prosecution suggesting that he was truly in a psychotic episode when the attack occurred. He is currently awaiting his trial today.
Half man, half animal.
Your parents, you should have been better. You should have done more. You failed miserably. And because you failed as parents, my sister and brother-in-law are dead. Did you really sit here for the past 6 years believing that toxicology report? Thinking he didn't do drugs? No one in your family has taken any responsibility for what has happened, not even you. I hate you. I hate you all. I hate what you did. I really think you deserve to die, Austin. Your family deserves to suffer the way my family suffered. Judge Bauer, I hope there's a consideration, whether anyone thinks the defendant was insane or not, that allowing him back into society where he could do this to another family rests on you. I hope that he stays wherever you are sending him forever, and if not forever, for at least my lifetime. Or I hope society is ready to live with a person like you.
So that was her sister. Obviously, she said what she felt. I'm gonna follow up on that, man. See if they let him out or if he got life. Man, that was crazy.
First ever footage of Madeleine McCann after the event.
Spotted on 4th of May 2007, one day after her disappearance. This girl had heterochromia and was seen 2 miles from the crime scene.
This is a man who killed his family twice. Gregory Green is a convicted murderer who completely failed at his second chance at life. In his early 20s, he married Tanya Green. It wasn't long into the marriage that Gregory started to show some signs of abusiveness, such as jealousy, anger, and violence. While Tanya was 6 months pregnant with Gregory's child, she threatened to leave him for good once she got home. But Tanya never got the chance because as soon as she got home, Gregory stabbed her with a steak knife 10 times, killing her and their unborn child. Gregory was given a 15 to 25-year sentence in prison, and during his time there, he was denied parole 4 times. However, during his time in prison, he gained lots of support from friends and family and grew really close to a pastor named Fred Harris, who helped him find God, and he was his biggest supporter of getting him out. In 2008, Gregory was released on parole after serving 16 years in prison, and after just 2 years on parole, he was a completely free man. Shortly after that, he married his second wife, Faith Harris Green, who was the daughter of the pastor he was working with in prison. They were married for 6 years, and Faith had a 19 and 17-year-old child from a previous marriage, and Gregory and Faith had a 5 and 6-year-old child. Over the course of their marriage, Gregory started to show the same signs of abusiveness as he showed before, and Faith also tried to file a restraining order but was denied. Things got really ugly in 2016 when Gregory poisoned his 2 young children that were sleeping upstairs, took Faith to the basement, tied her to a chair, and beat her. He then brought down his stepchildren and shot them in front of her. Faith survived the encounter, and Gregory was sentenced to prison yet again and won't be eligible for parole until he's 97 years old.
He really fell back in the same pattern again.
This is a true horrifying story, part 66. This story happened in the early 2000s. It was late at night. A woman was driving in an unfamiliar area. Her car was old and unreliable, and soon she realized that she had to make a stop for gas. Luckily, she came across a gas station in a few minutes. The gas station was very old-fashioned, in the middle of nowhere. But something about this gas station seems very off. Afraid that she might not find another gas station close by, she reluctantly pulled up and she asked an attendant to fill up the tank. The attendant seemed really nervous as he was filling up the tank, but he finished his job. He then moved towards her car window for payment. She hands him the money. He carefully examined it and told her that the bill was a counterfeit or a fake. The attendant explained that he would have to take her back inside in order to call his manager about the counterfeit bill, as it had to be reported to the bank. She got convinced. She goes inside and sits down. The attendant walks towards the station gates and locks the doors. He turns around and tells her the bill is not a counterfeit. At this point, she froze, thinking she's about to get abused. He tells her this: I had to get you out of the car because there was a man with a hatchet hiding in the back seat. This kind of crime is very common in the West. It is terrifying to realize that you are driving down the highway for a whole hour with another person hiding in your car, waiting for the right moment.
He saved her. You never know, man, what weirdos you're gonna freaking encounter. So he was in the car just waiting, plotting.
Creepy things kids have said, part 3. When I told my 3-year-old I was pregnant and had a baby in my belly, she kept saying no, 2 babies. A couple weeks later, it was confirmed I was having twins. Twins were thought to be boy and girl, but 3-year-old kept telling me they were sisters. So jokingly, we asked her when they would be born. She pointed to November 28th on the calendar. Sure enough, they were born on November 28th, 2012. 5-year-old, can I marry you? Me.
No, sorry, sweetie, I have a boyfriend.
5-year-old, what if he died? My daughter, from a severe brain injury when she was 11 weeks old, was in a coma for 3 days. For years afterwards, when it rained, she would comment, "Smells like God."
The true story of The Conjuring is creepier than the movie. In January 1971, Carolyn, Roger, and their 5 daughters moved into a 14-room farmhouse in Harrisville, Rhode Island. When the home seller passed the key to the family, he advised them, "Leave the lights on." They had no idea why, but soon they found out. Some nights when the children slept, would a spirit tuck them in and even kiss their foreheads. The evil force only got worse with time. Almost every night would Cindy, the second youngest daughter, hear spirits tell her that there were 7 soldiers buried in the walls. The family looked into the old house history and discovered that the property had been in the same family for 8 generations, and many of them had died under unexplained or horrifying circumstances. Furthermore, a woman named Bathsheba Sherman lived on the Perrins property in the mid-1800s. She was rumored to have been a Satanist, and it was believed that it was Bathsheba's spirit that was tormenting them, and that is why...
For 8 generations? Some weird couples going on?
Most of you guys don't even know who Jared is. In the early 2000s, this guy was the spokesman and face of the company Subway. The company originally caught wind of Jared when he lost over 200 pounds claiming to eat nothing but Subway sandwiches in less than 1 year. He was literally the face of their brand. Subway was paying him over $1 million a year, and they based their brand identity on Jared. They featured him in hundreds of commercials holding his famous oversized pants. He was even made fun of in a South Park episode. After so many years of being the face of Subway, Jared went on to start his own foundation in order to fight childhood obesity. Looking back at these photos is quite shocking and disturbing, considering what Jared was hiding this entire time. Both Jared and the foundation's director, Russell Taylor, had been involved in the creation and distribution of CP. Russell Taylor was busted in 2015 when a friend of his alerted the authorities that he had offered her pictures of this CP. When police raided his home, they found terabytes of this stuff. Taylor told police that all this footage was not for him, it was for his boss, Jared Fogle. The way this all started was that Taylor had security cameras in the offices of the foundation. He accidentally caught their underage intern having sex with her boyfriend in the office. Instead of reprimanding the young woman, Jared wanted to see the tape in full. And he forced Taylor to place more cameras throughout the building. Eventually started using the foundation to get closer to kids and even into their bedrooms, and started placing hidden cameras inside children's bedrooms across the city. They had accumulated terabytes of exposed children, amongst the more disturbing footage and imagery they got from the dark web. At this point in their relationship, Jared was paying for every single one of Taylor's expenses. Bought him a car, house, and paid for all of his family's medical expenses. According to court documents, Jared would say things like, "Daddy needs his pictures," and "Daddy's buying your things." Jared was sentenced to 15 years in prison for the possession and distribution of CP. Russell Taylor was sentenced to 27 years for sexual molestation and installing the security cameras. He pled guilty to 30 CP and sexual exploitation crimes. A year later, this piece of shit tried to appeal his case, claiming that the judge was biased because the judge had children. Let's hope he rots in jail. And that's the story of Subway's Jared. By the way, this is a fake pic.
That's crazy. Jared Fogle, but it seems like he got a lower sentence than the other guy. And he was like the ringmaster. He was the mastermind behind it. Guess we know why. I guess I never seen any of those commercials growing up. Thank you. Seekers, if you guys made it with me to the end of the video, you're a true seeker seeking the truth. I really appreciate the support. Make sure you guys leave a thumbs up in this video. Comment down below. Also, man, don't forget to follow me on all my social medias down below. Look at the links. Discord is down below as well. Guys, gonna catch you in the next one, man. I'm out. Peace, YouTube.